Paul Turovsky. In July of 2022, a newly married man on his honeymoon in Tampa, Florida, landed himself in trouble when he answered an ad for a prostitute. According to authorities, 34-year-old Paul Turovsky abandoned his bride as she slept in their hotel room and snuck out to meet with the sex worker he'd connected with online. What he likely imagined would be a steamy encounter turned out to be a sting operation as local police cracked down on sex trafficking in the area. When he arrived at the Hyatt Hotel, the agreed-upon rendezvous point, he was placed in handcuffs. At a press conference that took place on August 25th, Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Chronister said that a total of 176 people had been arrested since April after they began their wide-range undercover operation, looking for individuals planning to commit illegal acts of prostitution. What's even more horrific is that some of these cases involve minors. Chronister added that he only had one question speaking on behalf of Turovsky's wedding guests. Was it too late to get the gifts they'd given to the couple back? He also stated that the marriage likely wouldn't last too much longer between the two of them. 7. Wedding arrest. In November of 2022, a couple in El Guabo, Ecuador, had their wedding ruined when the groom was arrested over child support he failed to pay to another woman. In what many people consider to be the happiest day of their lives, the bride was left chasing after a police car in her white dress as it left the wedding venue with the unnamed groom inside. The pair was just about to say "I do" when officers barged into the building looking for the suspect. The whole ordeal was captured on video, which shows the man being led away in handcuffs by police. The wedding guests were understandably confused and angry, and they yelled at the officers who were just doing their job. The bride, who initially ran after the squad car on foot, reportedly got into another vehicle and followed them to the police station. The groom-to-be apparently owed several months' worth of child support to a woman he was in a previous relationship with. It's unclear if the bride was aware of the situation with the other woman, or if she knew that her fiancé had several children with her. The man was questioned by authorities on why he'd refused to take care of his responsibilities, but his reasons were not shared with the public. It's also not known if the groom was released from custody so he could marry his new bride. 6. Matthew Amos. In November of 2018, a groom was charged in Philadelphia after he apparently assaulted a teenage girl who was working as a waitress at his own wedding. 31-year-old Matthew Amos was at his wedding reception at Northampton Valley Country Club when he was put into handcuffs and arrested. According to police reports, Amos had hit on an underage waitress working for the event. He reportedly asked her to go outside and make out with him less than an hour after he had legally married his new bride. The man made matters even worse for himself when he offered the young girl $100, telling her to kiss him like she meant it. The waitress rightfully declined his offer, but Amos didn't take no for an answer. He watched the girl from afar, and when he saw her heading to the bathroom, he followed her inside, where he pulled her into a stall before groping her and exposing himself. The whole ordeal left the young girl visibly shaken, and she reported the man to authorities, which was easy to do since officers were called to the scene for another reason. When they showed up, police found the groom punching and pushing people. A wedding employee told the officers that Amos had physically assaulted him after he attempted to stop the man from bringing open alcohol outside the building. As the authorities tried to get Amos in handcuffs, he resisted their demands and tried to flee the scene on a shuttle bus. He also apparently tried to entice the cops to fight him and hurled derogatory insults in their direction. But the clearly intoxicated and violent man was finally taken into custody when one of the officers boarded the bus equipped with a taser. He was able to force Amos out of the vehicle after a brief struggle. For his crimes against a minor and for attacking several people at his own wedding, Amos was charged with indecent exposure, harassment, imprisonment of a minor, and indecent assault. But that's not all, folks. He was also charged with disorderly conduct, resisting arrest for the brawl, and simple assault. Amos was initially held on a $350,000 bail, but was released after posting 10% of it. He ended up taking a plea deal, which saw some of the more serious charges dropped, but he was sentenced to 6 years of probation. Megan Hunsaker, Assistant District Attorney, stated that this was the best outcome, and she's hoping that this conviction will allow the underage victim some peace of mind that allows her to move on with her life. 5. Adam Gaudette. In November of 2020, a bride from Vancouver, Canada, shared the shocking moment her new husband ruined their wedding when he accidentally kicked her in the face while attempting to do a sexy dance for her at the reception. The groom, professional hockey player for the Vancouver Canucks Adam Gaudette, thought it would be fun to show off his moves to his new wife with all of their wedding guests in attendance, but things didn't exactly go according to plan. Adam began his routine by giving his bride Michaela a lap dance, which she seemed to enjoy, or at least thought it was funny. However, when he stood up and tried to kick his leg over the woman's head, he miscalculated and ended up smacking her straight in the jaw with the heel of his foot. This obviously wasn't planned, and when he realized what he'd done, he stopped dancing and began kissing Michaela apologetically. Adam then escorted his bride off the dance floor and escorted her to the bathroom, where she reportedly cried for a little while. But Michaela seemed fine overall, and apparently went back out a short while later and partied with her best friends until 8 a.m. the next morning. The whole ordeal was captured on TikTok, and it was posted to Michaela's TikTok account, where the clip has been viewed over 1 million times. She lightheartedly captioned the post, "How my husband ruined our wedding." But she explained that Adam felt extremely bad for the dance that went horribly wrong. Users who appreciated the clip left comments like, "Note to self, don't marry the Karate Kid," and "I love how concerned he was immediately for you." The pair got married in June of that year, but waited until November to post the adorably embarrassing video to TikTok. It's unclear from the clip where the wedding took place, but it looked as though everyone enjoyed themselves even after the accident happened, including the bride. 4. Billy Engel. In Kentucky in July of 2022, Billy Engel had his drink spiked with Adderall at his own wedding, and he felt like he was having a heart attack. Billy suffered an accidental overdose as a result of the drug drink, and he couldn't stop crying as his bride Brandy walked down the aisle. Many of the wedding guests were unaware of the situation and likely found this moment quite moving. However, Brandy reported feeling unnerved by what she saw. The woman, who'd never seen her fiancé cry before, stopped walking and noticed that Billy's face was bright red. But Billy wasn't the only one acting weird, and Brandy observed the man officiating their wedding displaying strange behavior as well. She said she had to remind him to say, "I now pronounce you Mr. and Mrs. Engel," like he'd forgotten what he was going to say. It was at this point that Brandy knew something was terribly wrong. Apparently, Billy and the couple's friend who'd been ordained to perform the ceremony had both taken sips from the same glass. Brandy first began to think that the drink was spiked when Billy said he couldn't remember anything. It was later found that Billy had consumed around 10 Adderall pills, which are typically used to treat ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The drug can be extremely dangerous when taken recreationally, and according to the American Addiction Centers, combining alcohol and Adderall can lead to central nervous system damage, and in extreme cases, seizures. Luckily, Billy and the pair's friend who was also drugged made a full recovery following the incident. The couple said they didn't believe the wedding guest who spiked the drink purposefully meant to ruin their big day, but they certainly did. Brandy said, "It was the scariest and most heartbreaking moment of my entire life," but it seems as though she's trying to put the incident behind her and move on with their lives. 3. Omar Delaney. A newlywed Las Vegas bride stood by her husband in 2021 after he was accused of sexually assaulting a woman in a hotel room on the same day as their wedding. On Tuesday, April 20th, 35-year-old Omar Delaney was arrested and charged with 1 count of lewdness and 3 counts of sexual assault. That morning, he was scheduled to marry his fiancée, Tamara Royas, who apparently was aware of the allegations against him. Omar was able to pay his own bail and he was released from jail later that day. Less than 24 hours later, he followed through with the wedding and married Tamara. It seemed as though his new bride was supporting him even after more incriminating evidence was brought forward against him. The night of the incident, Omar had been celebrating his upcoming nuptials in the Las Vegas Strip with several of the wedding guests as well as his fiancée. He reportedly offered to walk one of the women home, a friend of the bride, to make sure she got back safe. She was tipsy after consuming 3 shots of vodka, so she agreed, and they made their way back to the Luxor Hotel and Casino where they were staying. According to Omar's arrest report, when they arrived at the woman's hotel room, which happened to be right next to the bride and groom's, he began touching the woman inappropriately. When she told him she didn't like what he was doing, he replied okay and then left. However, he returned shortly after and forcefully removed the woman's clothing. Omar then began to perform sexual acts on her without her consent. The victim feared resisting his advances out of fear he'd get violent. The morning after the assault, she reported the crime to the police and wanted to press charges against her aggressor. When law enforcement investigated the matter, they found a key to the victim's room in Omar's possession. They discovered that the keycard had been used several times that night between 12:20 a.m. and 1:30 a.m. Surveillance footage was obtained from the hotel by police, placing Omar at the scene of the crime. DNA samples were also collected in order to definitively prove exactly what happened. Despite the allegations and charges brought against him, Omar and his new bride seem to be happy and over the moon as they've shared in their posts on Facebook since their wedding. Tamara, who's since taken Omar's last name, reported to the Daily Mail that she believes the victim is lying and that her husband is innocent. Omar was scheduled to appear in court to face the charges on July 26th of that year, but it's unclear what became of the case. 2. Kevin Joseph McGrath. In an apparent failure of the Irish legal system, a groom walked free after he was accused of punching and kicking his new wife in their hotel room on the night of their wedding in 2016. 28-year-old Kevin Joseph McGrath had apparently started drinking at 10 a.m. on the morning of his wedding, which is never a good sign. After they tied the knot and went back to their bridal suite, Kevin allegedly began vomiting all over his wife. His new wife, Melissa, was understandably upset by his behavior and was reprimanding him when he suddenly turned violent. Kevin then reportedly assaulted Melissa that night before falling asleep. When Kevin was questioned regarding the allegations of domestic abuse, he claimed he didn't remember anything that happened after the wedding meal ended at around 8 p.m. He couldn't recall if it attacked his bride, but that doesn't mean he wasn't guilty. On October 2nd, law enforcement was called to the White River House Hotel located in Tunbridge Co. Antrim, following a call they'd received from hotel staff after Melissa reported the crime to them. The injuries she sustained were so serious that she required medical attention, and she was taken to a nearby hospital to be treated. Kevin was accused of choking his new bride on top of kicking and punching her. The incident understandably left Melissa feeling very scared, and her new husband was promptly kicked out of the hotel by employees. Kevin pleaded guilty to assault, and when he returned to the Antrim Magistrates Court on November 29th, he was sentenced to 2 years of probation and was told to pay a fine of $354 to his wife in compensation. He was also ordered to participate in the Building Better Relationships program and was required to complete 100 hours of community service. The judge described the sentence as a direct alternative to immediate custody. Since the assault, Kevin hasn't seen his wife or the daughter they share together. 1. Imposter. In June of 2022, a new bride in Indonesia claimed she was scammed out of thousands of dollars by her husband, who turned out to be a woman in disguise. The bride's official name was not mentioned in the story, but the 22-year-old woman is now pressing charges against her imposter of a husband. According to local outlet Tribune News, the woman met her spouse, who used the name Arnaf Arafif, on a dating app called Tantan the year before they got married. Arnaf claimed to be a doctor who received education in New York, and the pair immediately hit it off over text messages. The couple met in person for the first time in May of 2021, when Arnaf traveled to the woman's hometown of Jambi. Just a short while later, Arnaf would propose and the two of them got married in July of that year. The woman said that she couldn't believe the news because she and Arnaf had intercourse frequently throughout their 10-month-long marriage. But she did admit that she was asked not to look directly at her husband's genitals and that her eyes were covered by a cloth every time things turned intimate. Arnaf also only got completely naked when the lights were turned off. But when she found out her so-called husband didn't actually have a job, she grew suspicious of him. The imposter also began to ask for money when they moved into the woman's mother's home. Then, in April of 2022, after she attempted to get her husband's identification documents and failed, the woman and her mother ordered Arnaf to strip naked, at which point she admitted to being a woman named Ariani Arafif. The scorned bride is now suing Ariani for fraud and most likely filed for divorce immediately after finding out her new husband was really a woman. Would you forgive your new husband if he got too drunk at your wedding reception and accidentally set fire to the building? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!